The reason why I was doing this, why I was going into this destructive direction, was because I was seeking the approval of others. And maybe the universe is telling you, yo, this is not where you should be, this mental state or physical state. Start again. Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first video, and ever since starting therapy, I've wanted to create a space, a safe platform where I could share my experience with others and share my story. Because when I started, I was not confident. I was very insecure, not saying that I'm any more confident or I'm feeling the best about myself now, but I've learned things on the way about myself, and I want to share that with somebody who feels like me, who doesn't exactly feel their best about who they are right now and who they want to be. And this video came up to me after I missed a client meeting. It happened last Friday, and there was some technical difficulties with my Outlook email. I had set up an event for the meeting with the client, but unfortunately, since I came from my hometown, which is in a different time zone, my Outlook suddenly glitched and it set up the meeting an hour later. So I arrived at the meeting, the client wasn't there, and it was our first meeting ever. So obviously first impression was crashed. And I felt very, very irresponsible and guilty because I'm the producer of the team. And if I cannot do one thing good, especially make a good first impression, and how am I going to organize a whole team in the production process of our AV commercial? And what I did was I emailed my supervisors, my lecturers, and also the client, explained the situation and hope for the best because I cannot do anything at this point. And the client was kind of strict. They told me not to do this again, obviously, because I did take away from their time. They had planned the whole day and they had planned this meeting, and obviously they have stuff they're busy with. But I took responsibility and initiative for the things that happened, because if I had not, I would have pushed myself to the edge. I would have been very, very destructive to myself. I would have said very nasty things, and I almost gave into the mindset. I was almost to the edge, so close to giving up, telling my team, all right, this is what happened. Somebody else should do it. Somebody else should take over. And I was almost not believing in myself, that I can actually proceed from here, and that I should just give up. But everybody was so understanding. And I told myself while I was waiting for the client, because we set up another meeting an hour later, I was telling myself, that this is for a good cause. This is for a reason. You shouldn't blame yourself for stuff that happened. Just move on. Forgive yourself and move on. Take deep breaths. Stay with me. And I felt better. I couldn't change the situation. I couldn't make myself feel perfect, but I did feel a bit better. And that helped me regain my confidence in that moment when I had to meet the client and actually talk to them. I was confident enough to carry on through that day. And obviously I got myself ice cream afterwards, and that helped a little bit. But when I got home, I realized that I've had this pressure ever since I was little, because I had this pressure from my peers and also my family, relatives, parents, to have good grades, to always excel, to get into a good university, and show my best attitude towards other people, and leave a good impression, because that will help with networking and getting a good job, career opportunities, and trying to get best in friendships and relationships. Like, I would outburn myself just for the sake of people liking me. And even if I wasn't feeling it, I would still do it. I don't know why, but I felt that, like, if people felt that I was a good friend and that I did the most, they would not leave me because there was no reason for it. And even if we weren't compatible, I would still be in their lives and still be respected. I could not handle hate. And I know that this led me to always want to control things, like every aspect of my life. I even tried to control my eating habits, for example, so I would not fall off my everyday diet. For example, I would binge eat because I was so emotional, so stressed and anxious, and then restrict myself the next day, which led me to restrictive eating, which then in result led me to binge eat again because I had put these very strict boundaries on something that I should not control that much. I should control my emotions, not what I eat. And punishing yourself is a very destructive move. It's an action that you take, and just because you hate yourself, not because you want to love yourself. That's why I believe that, like, going to the gym or working out or being in fresh air seems like a chore, but it actually is not a punishment, because you cannot work for hating yourself. You're actually working for loving yourself. And when I was in that binge eating mindset, I was loathing myself. I did it to despise myself even more, to show myself, see, you cannot stay on track. This is why you're trash. And all I needed in that moment was to be considerate and sympathetic with myself. All I needed was comfort. And I thought that food was giving me that feeling of comfort, when in reality, my need was something else. I thought I wanted food, but I actually needed comfort because of this pressure of always being in control and not failing. And in result, like, this binge eating cycle actually made me close off from people, which also did not do anything good for my mental health, because I'm kind of a social butterfly. I want to be around with people, but also have time for myself. And when I binged, I felt like everybody's gonna see that I ate 2,000 more calories than I did the day before. I felt that it's going to change the perception of me in other people's eyes, that my value would decrease if I ever told them, or if they saw that I was gaining weight, or that my body was changing, or that my mental health was not as great. The reason why I was doing this, why I was going into this destructive direction, was because I was seeking the approval of others. For example, with the grades, I was not doing it for myself. Believe me, I don't think anybody well, not everybody, but most people do it because they either feel peer pressure to excel in school, or they want to get into a good university, get parents' approval, or seem better than their friends, or feel better about themselves. It's never about the grades. It's about the feeling that you get when you receive a good grade. And I needed to come to terms that I'm not the best at everything. I cannot excel in every single aspect of my life. And it cannot be controlled. I cannot put too much pressure on myself to always be the best. And I have to figure out something that I like, something that I enjoy doing, because that will actually do best for me. It's gonna improve my self-growth and help along the way of improving. And I always felt like even if I got an average grade, I always felt like I'm failing others' expectations of me. For example, there's like this distorted perception I gave myself that my parents will disapprove, or I will have to go out of my way to sort of prove a point, to not get a punishment for getting a bad grade. But it's not my responsibility how others treat me and how they respond to my actions. That version of me that is in somebody else's head is not my responsibility. It's not something that I can control, because everybody sees the world differently. And when they project their negative actions onto me, it's just their insecurities and their irrational decisions. Maybe somebody had a bad day, or they're not feeling as good about themselves as well. So they're kind of projecting those emotions and feelings onto you. I know that's not correct, but others' opinions do not define your worth. Even if thousands of people say that they don't like you, well, guess what? At least one person will. And if we look at other people who have failed before, let's take Elvis Presley, for example. He failed all of his music lessons. He did not fit in. When he had his first paying gig, his manager told him that he was not going anywhere. He should just switch careers. And when he joined a vocal quartet, he was told he cannot sing. And look at him now. He is the most popular record artist of all time. And if you take a look around you, like the device you're watching this on, it is a successful product that somebody created. But to get there, to get that product, there were thousands of trials and errors before the final product came into place. And there were lots of overthinking and doubting moments leading up to this moment. And if all of the people, all of the successful people that you look around and you look up to had given up, we would have nothing as a society to look up to. The thing is that failure actually leads us to more opportunities and ways of learning about ourselves, about the future we want to create, about the world we live in. It makes us interesting, adds color to our personalities and character. And I know a lot of people actually have this huge fear of failure. Let's say like you want to write a book and you have this amazing idea, but at the same time, you're not very confident in your writing abilities or if you will actually finish it. You're not very confident in your skills. And I think it was the author Elizabeth Gilbert that said this in one of her TED Talks. She had this amazing idea, but she wasn't very confident, or didn't actually go through with that idea. And years later, in a conference, one of her colleagues comes up and tells her about this amazing book deal that she just got, where she wrote a book about this amazing idea. And Elizabeth looks at her and she's like, "That's my idea." And it's so weird that like somebody else who she did not talk to actually came up with the same or similar idea and got the book deal. These ideas that are in your head, they need to come out. Even if they're crazy or over the top or they seem like too unrealistic, they have to come out. By you or by anybody else. If you're not going to do it, somebody else will do it. And trust me, you're going to see them working for it because they believe in it. They're ready to take action. Because if they let the fear of failure hold them back, they're not going anywhere. And one might argue, yeah, like I do photography, but there are so many similar or the same type of photographers out there. And they're all professional, have good equipment, and so on. What if I fail in a field that is already filled with someone just like me? Why should I even start in the beginning? Well, that's cool that you have these other people to network with, learn from, shadow, and you shouldn't compare yourself to others and where they are in their lives. You should compare yourself with somebody within your league. Compare yourself with all of the beginners, the ones who do not have the equipment, but network with those who do. And trust me, somebody who is very focused on their career will not have time to talk shit about you. They will be too focused on creating the future they want for themselves than to focus on your life. And next time when you try and fail, you can go back to the people who you surround yourself with, learn from what does not work or what you don't like. And the more you fail, your standards go higher. And it's like practice. You try, you fail, or you don't completely fail. You find something that works. And in the end, or towards the end, you will be able to produce something of higher quality or something that you actually enjoy. And the actual losers in life, because there are winners and losers, particularly if we say that, those are the people who don't fail because they just stay in the same place. They're not going out of their comfort zone. They're not putting themselves out there to learn, to grow. They're too arrogant to reflect on themselves and their actions and their actual errors in character. Everything happens for a reason. Life is a gamble. Like sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I know that almost every t-shirt in Forever 21 has this quote. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. I'm very sure that at least one t-shirt has been made like that. And even if your friendship or relationship falls out, that's still for a reason. I do not want to go into detail about this sort of failure, like relationships, because that's another topic I would want to focus on. But let's say you were fired from a job or declined for one. You applied, you created your CV, your portfolio, motivational letter, and you still were declined. Maybe you feel like you failed yourself that day. And maybe for a week straight, bad things have happened to you. Well, not particularly bad things, but maybe you spilled your coffee on your new pants while you were getting ready. You spilled water on your computer while you were in a rush. So all of these things that are out of your control just delay you in some ways, throw you out of your comfort zone, and you don't feel quite like yourself. If I were in this situation, I would look at it like, what is the reason why I'm put through this test? Because we are not put through the toughest battles without a reason. Either we are very strong and we don't believe in ourselves that we can actually do it. And maybe the universe is telling you, yo, this is not where you should be, this mental state or physical state, start again. Start all over again. Try and see what happens. And the quicker you realize that things happen for you, not to you, the more time you actually have to do stuff you like, to try out the things you thought you couldn't do. Failure is just a process, an event, and it's not permanent. All of the feelings that are involved with failure, the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, that is just temporary. And right now, I think that reflecting on your failure points and asking yourself what I could have done differently and forgiving yourself for not knowing any better is the way to go. Because you don't have to have everything figured out at the moment. When a situation happens, you deal with it. When you fail, you deal with it. Or you can give up. It's your choice. You can start over one day at a time, or you can start over the next week because you need to regain your composure and get yourself back on your feet. That's okay. That's completely okay. But having this reflection, that's part of forgiveness and part of growth, which will ultimately lead you to the final goal. For example, failing frequently, is it okay? I believe it's okay as long as you don't try to be as stubborn and to run into the same wall. Like you go back and look for the small, tiny, kind of transparent errors along the way and admit to yourself that something isn't quite right and should be changed. Otherwise, you're just going through it all over again. You're burning yourself out. You're not improving. Nothing's really happening good. And nothing good will come out of it. And instead, you're setting up yourself for more self-loathing and failure. When should you give up? Because sometimes the things we want the most sometimes turn out to be different from what we actually need. Or along the way, you realize, hey, this isn't quite really what I wanted. Well, remember this. No one remembers your 100 failures, but only remembers your one success. If this doesn't feel right in the moment, you can go back, take up a new thing, take up a new hobby, try it out, and then if you still decide to take up that action, that goal that was previously started, that's still okay. Because from that moment, you kind of understand what you want because you've started doing something else. And maybe you can bring that experience, that knowledge when you're working on that previous subject. But if you're kind of nervous about people looking up to you and seeing what you're doing, then don't tell anybody. It's still okay. When you're ready, when you're confident enough, you can tell them, hey, I wrote a book, or hey, I wrote a song. I'm doing this and that. Can you take a look? The same goes with comments, with critics. If you're not ready for it, don't ask for it. Just do your thing, focus on yourself and your goal, and then when you're kind of confident to take the critical comments, then you can go for it. And if you're still trying to work on that goal, but you're kind of feeling, oh, I should give up because it's already been 5,000 times I've tried this, but you still have a reason why you started or you still keep on going, then stick to that. If the reason no longer serves you, then it's good to leave it like that. Go try new things. It's okay. We have the world in front of us to take these opportunities and chances. And if you need anybody to talk about this, about the experience, about the failure and feelings of failure, go ahead and find the people that you feel most comfortable with. Find somebody who has shared their life story, for example, on social media, or somebody you look up to. Ask them questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Because then, if you do not get the answer you wanted, you can still work through it. You still did get something. Maybe you asked for something what you should do, but you received an answer what you shouldn't do. Hey, you just got an answer what you shouldn't do. So take it as not seriously. Take it as kind of a child's play. And if you do fail and you wonder, how can I get back on my feet? The steps are to reflect the situation that happened and what you could have done differently. Accept that it happened. And forgive yourself for things you did or didn't do quite right. And move on. If you don't take these steps, you will find yourself going back to these steps. You're going to go back to the failing stage at some point in time. And you have to be kind of responsible for your actions. So try to lower your ego and tell yourself, hey, it's okay that I failed. Shit happens. But I can go through this. I'm strong enough to do this. And if you always fear about the worst possible outcome because you don't want to fail and you're just planning everything, you're planning out that this will happen badly, this will happen, you have a whole list of things that might go wrong, this doesn't make you a better person or just add value to you. But think to yourself that if you go out of your comfort zone and push yourself to do it, it will be a great experience that you will not regret. Ask yourself, will this experience actually bring value to my life? If the answer is yes, then even if you fail in every aspect of your life, you're still doing something that you love, something that you get from, like you're putting yourself out there. You get value from that. You're becoming more confident. And at the end, when you're on your deathbed, you won't regret the things that you didn't do. Because you did them. You tried it all. And if we look at movies where everybody has the perfect ending, even if they get fired from their job, they still get the guy. Real life does not happen like that. Sorry to break it to you. But how do I get this? You take the story of the fairy tale that you look up to, and you tell yourself that the fairy tale continues. Create a real life story continuation, like a sequel to that movie or book. And you tell them, okay, so they got fired from their job and they still got the guy. Well, it doesn't mean that their relationship will work out. It doesn't mean that now they're happy and for the rest of their lives they're going to be content with the way they're living. But when you do more to go from the trial and error stages, you will find ways to make it work. You will find ways for it to work for yourself. But that will only happen if you don't give up. If you just put yourself out there and eliminate the fear of actually failing, because it's not real. It's just the reality that you have created for yourself, that you're gonna fail and that you're a failure. I want to say that your feelings are valid. the shame, the guilt, that is all valid. And you can feel those things. You can have bad days where you grieve or you lay in bed for a week. That's fine. If that helps you to get up, get out of bed, that's okay. Because we're all going through different battles at our own pace. So it's very important that we do take notice and acknowledge what our body, what our mind, what our heart needs. All right, guys. I guess this is it for my video today. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.